The red lights flashed across the control room of the space station. Commander Zethkara lifted his long reptilian head from the sensor screen. His yellow eyes grew wide with fear. The message on his screen made his blood run cold. Warning, A. Human warship has entered the sector. Zethkara stared at the words. This was impossible. Humans had been dead for 300 years. The hegemony had made sure of that. They had burned every human world until nothing was left but dust and... Ash, sir? Asked his second officer, a blue-skinned female named Vera. What should we do? Zethkara did not answer right away. He checked the sensors again. There it was on the long-range scan. A massive ship unlike anything he had ever seen. It was dark and angular, with weapon ports along its sides. The ship was huge, bigger than most Federation battleships. Get me Admiral Vyses, Zethkara said. His voice shook as he spoke. Tell her we have a problem. Far away, in the black space between stars, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship. The used Defiance was humanity's greatest creation. Built in secret over many decades, he was the last hope of his people. Morrison was a tall man, with gray hair and hard blue eyes. He wore a simple blue uniform with captain's stripes on his shoulders. Scars covered his hands from years of hard work. He had spent his whole life preparing for this moment. Status report, Morrison said to his crew. All systems are working perfectly, sir, replied Commander Lisa Grant. She was Morrison's second in command, a smart woman with short brown hair. The quantum engines are running at full power. Good, Morrison said. He looked out the window. At the stars ahead. After 300 years, we're finally going home. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft hum of computers. Morrison's crew knew how important this mission was. They were the children and grandchildren of survivors. Their families had escaped Earth just before the hegemony attacked. Lieutenant Amy Barnes sat at the communications station. She was young, maybe 25, with blonde hair tied back in a ponytail. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. Sir, I'm picking up Federation signals, she said. They know we're here. Morrison nodded. Open a channel to all frequencies. Amy's hands danced over her controls. Channel open, sir. Morrison took a deep breath. These words would change everything. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Defiance. We have returned. On the Federation station, Zethkara heard the transmission. His blood turned to ice. The voice was calm and strong. It was definitely human. Impossible, whispered Vera. They're all dead. Apparently not, Zethkara said. He had been just a young soldier when the humans were destroyed. He remembered. The stories the older officers told. Humans were dangerous. They fought like wild animals when cornered. Sir, Admiral Vyses is on the communication channel, announced another officer. Admiral Vyses appeared on the main screen. She was an elegant ethereal, with pale blue skin and large silver eyes. Her species was known for being wise and peaceful. Commander Zethkara, she said, I received your message. Are you certain this is a human ship? Yes, Admiral. The ship is broadcasting human identification codes. And we just heard from their captain. Admiral Vyses was quiet for a long moment. This changes everything. Keep watching them, but do not attack. I'm sending a diplomatic team. Meanwhile, deep in the Defiance, Chief Engineer Ryan Clark worked. In the engine room, the quantum cores hummed with power beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Ryan was a big man with calloused hands and oil stains on his uniform. How are the engines holding up? Asked his assistant, a young man named Pete. Perfect. Ryan said with pride. These babies can outrun anything in the galaxy. The aliens have no idea what we're capable of. Ryan had helped design these engines. While the rest of the galaxy used old fusion drives, Humans had developed quantum technology. It made their ship faster and more powerful than anything else. In space. Back on the bridge, Morrison studied the tactical display. He could see Federation ships moving toward them. Some were from species he recognized. Others were new. "Sir, we're getting multiple signals," Amy reported. "The Ethereals want to talk. The Vorthik are calling for their military. And the hegemony, double quotes." She paused. "The hegemony is mobilizing their fleet." Morrison's jaw tightened. The hegemony. The ones who had destroyed Earth. The ones who had tried to wipe out every human in the galaxy. He had waited his whole life for this moment. "Let them come," Morrison said quietly. "It's time they learned that you can't kill an idea. And the idea of human freedom is very much alive." Lisa Grant checked her weapons console. "All systems ready, Captain." "We have full power to shields and weapons." Morrison nodded. He knew this moment would come. The Defiance was not just a ship. It was a symbol. It was proof that humanity had survived. It was a promise that they would never give up. The ship's AI spoke in a calm female voice. The crew called her Liberty. "Captain, I am detecting significant fleet movements throughout the sector. Multiple species are responding to our presence." "Understood, Liberty," Morrison replied. "Begin recording everything. History is watching." Morrison looked around his bridge at his crew. These people were the best humanity had to offer. They had trained their whole lives for this mission. Their parents and grandparents had died dreaming of this day. "All hands, this is the captain," Morrison announced over the ship's communication system. "Today we return to the galaxy that tried to destroy us. Today we show them that humanity is not so easily killed. Today we begin the fight to reclaim our place among the stars." The Defiance moved forward through space, its quantum engines leaving a trail of blue light. After 3 centuries of hiding, humanity had returned, and they were ready for war. Admiral Korvash stood in the command center as massive flagship. The insect-like alien was tall and covered in black armor-like skin. His forearms moved quickly over different control panels. His red compound eyes showed no emotion, but inside he felt something he had not felt in years: fear. "Play the transmission again," Korvash ordered. The voice filled the command center. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Defiance. We have returned." Korvash's mandibles clicked together. He had been there when Earth burned. He had personally watched the human homeworld turn to ash and fire. Every human colony had been destroyed. Every human ship had been hunted down and destroyed. There should be no humans left alive. "Sir," said his aide, a smaller insect creature, named Vex. "How is this possible? We killed them all." "Apparently we did not," Korvash said. His voice was like grinding metal. "Send word to all hegemony fleets. We have unfinished business." On the Federation diplomatic ship Harmony, Ambassador Lirel prepared for the most important meeting of her life. She was an ethereal, a species known for their wisdom and ability to speak with any race. Her pale blue skin glowed softly in the dim light of her quarters. Lirel had studied human history for years. She knew about their wars, their art, their dreams. She had always felt sad about their destruction. Now she had a chance to meet a real human. "Ambassador," her assistant said, "through the communication system, we are approaching the human ship." Lirel took a deep breath. "Open a channel." The main screen showed the bridge of the human ship. A woman with short brown hair appeared. She wore a blue uniform with commander's stripes. "I am Commander Lisa Grant of the U.E.'s Defiance," the human said. "You wanted to speak with us?" "I am." "Ambassador Lirel of the Federation," Lirel replied. "We thought your people were extinct. How did you survive?" Lisa's face was hard, but not unfriendly. Some of us escaped before Earth fell. We've been building and preparing ever since. For 300 years? Lyral asked. Where have you been? In the dark space between the stars, Lisa said, building ships, training soldiers, learning everything we could about our enemies. Lyral felt a chill run through her. You've been planning revenge? We've been planning survival, Lisa corrected. The hegemony tried to wipe us out. We made sure that could never happen again. Deep inside the Defiance, Dr. Helen Walsh worked. In her laboratory. She was a thin woman with gray hair and smart green eyes. Around her, dozens of screens showed data about their ship's systems. Helen was the ship's chief scientist. She had spent 40 years developing new technologies. The Defiance was not just bigger than other ships. It was completely different. How are the adaptive shields working? Asked her assistant, a young man named Tom. Better than expected, Helen said with a smile. The system learns from every attack. Each time an enemy fires at us, our shields get stronger against that type of weapon. Tom looked confused. How is that possible? Quantum mechanics, Helen explained. Our shields exist in multiple states at once. When they're attacked, they collapse into the state that best resists that attack. It's like having a shield that can change into exactly what you need. Helen had also worked on their weapons. While other races used simple energy beams, humans had developed antimatter lances. These weapons could cut through any known shield. Or armor. Back on the bridge, Captain Morrison watched as Federation ships gathered around them. He could see dozens of different species. Some he recognized from old databases. Others were new. Sir, said Lieutenant Amy Barnes from her communication station. Admiral Vises wants to speak with you directly. Morrison nodded. Put her through. The elegant ethereal appeared on the main screen. Her large silver eyes studied Morrison carefully. Captain Morrison, she said. I am Admiral Vises of the Federation Fleet. We need to talk. I'm listening, Morrison replied. The hegemony is mobilizing their forces, Admiral Vises said. They're bringing everything they have. Why did you come back now? Morrison was quiet for a moment. Because we're ready. Ready for what? To finish what they started, Morrison said. 300 years ago, they tried to destroy humanity. They failed. Now it's our turn. Admiral Vises looked worried. Captain, a hegemony has thousands of ships. You have one. Morrison smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Quality over quantity, Admiral. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Ryan Clark made final adjustments to the quantum cores. The engines hummed with power that would have been impossible with old technology. Ryan, his assistant Pete asked, are we really going to fight the entire hegemony fleet? Ryan wiped oil from his hands. Pete, this ship was built for one purpose. To show the galaxy that humans don't give up. Ever. But there are so many of them. Numbers don't matter, Ryan said. What matters is who wants it more. And trust me, nobody wants this more than we do. The quantum engines could make the Defiance move in ways that seemed impossible. The ship could change direction instantly, stop and start without warning, and even teleport short distances. On the Federation command ship, Admiral Vises met with her officers. They were from different species, but they all looked worried. What? Do we know about human military capability? She asked. Captain Norg, a bear-like alien, checked his datapad. Very little. Their last war was 300 years ago. This ship uses technology we don't understand. Should we help them? Asked Commander Krill, a fish-like creature. Admiral Vises thought carefully. The Federation stood by when the hegemony destroyed Earth. Maybe it's time we made up for that. Mistake. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, hegemony ships began moving toward the human vessel. Admiral Korvash had called in favors from a dozen species. His fleet grew larger by the hour. "Sir," reported Vex, "we now have 200 ships moving toward the target." "Good," Corvash said. "This time we will make sure no humans survive." But Corvash did not know what he was facing. The Defiance was not just a ship. It was the result of 3 centuries of human anger, determination, and genius. Every system had been designed by people who had lost everything and refused to give up. Back on the Defiance, Morrison addressed his crew over the ship's communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. In a few hours, we will face the same enemy that destroyed our homeworld. They think one ship cannot stand against their fleet. They're about to learn how wrong they are." Morrison paused, looking out at the stars. "We are the children of Earth. We are the last free humans in the galaxy. Today we show them what happens when you try to destroy an idea. Today we show them that humanity will never surrender." The crew cheered. They had waited their whole lives for this moment. They were ready to fight. They were ready to win. Or die trying. The Defiance moved forward into space, its engines leaving a trail of blue quantum fire. Behind them came the Federation fleet, finally ready to stand with humanity. Ahead waited the Hegemony, confident in their numbers. But they had never faced anything like the Defiance. They had never faced humans who had nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The space around the gas giant Hefto 7 filled with ships. Admiral Corvash's Hegemony fleet stretched across the void like a metal cloud. 200 warships of different sizes and shapes. Destroyers, cruisers, and the massive Devastator class. Battleships that had once burned human worlds to ash. Corvash stood on his command deck, his 4 arms working different controls. His red compound eyes watched the tactical display. One small dot represented the human ship. It looked so tiny, compared to his mighty fleet. "All ships report ready," announced Vex, his aide. "Shall we begin the attack?" "Not yet," Corvash said. He wanted to enjoy this moment. Open a channel to the human ship. "I want to speak with them before they die." The main screen showed the bridge of the Defiance. Captain Morrison appeared, his hard blue eyes staring directly at Corvash. "I remember you," Morrison said quietly. "You were at Earth." Corvash's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. "Yes, I was there when your pathetic world burned. I watched your cities turn to glass. How does it feel to know you will join them?" Morrison's face did not change. "It feels like justice is finally coming." "Justice?" Corvash laughed, a sound like breaking metal. "You have 1 ship. I have 200. Where is your justice now?" "You're about to find out," Morrison said. Then the screen went dark. On the Defiance bridge, Morrison turned to his crew. "All stations report ready?" "Weapons ready," said Major Tony Rivera from the weapons console. Tony was a stocky man with black hair and steady hands. He had trained his whole life for this battle. "Shields at maximum," reported Lisa Grant. "All defensive systems online." "Engineering reports all systems perfect," added Amy Barnes from Communications. Morrison nodded. "Liberty, begin recording. If we don't make it through this, someone should know what happened here." "The ship's A," I responded in her calm voice. "Recording. Started, Captain. All crew members are at battle stations." Morrison looked out at the enemy fleet. "Today we fight for every human who ever lived. Today we fight for Earth. Today we fight for the future. All weapons fire at will." The Defiance moved forward like a hunting shark. Its quantum engines let it change direction instantly. The ship twisted and turned in ways that seemed impossible. Hegemony weapons fired at empty space as the human ship danced between their shots. Tony Rivera's fingers moved over his weapons controls. Antimatter lances, full power. Beams of pure energy shot from the Defiance. They were brighter than stars. and hotter than the center of suns. The first beam hit a hegemony destroyer. The alien ship simply vanished in a flash of light. "Direct hit," Tony shouted. "Target destroyed." Corvash could not believe what he was seeing. His sensors showed the human ship moving at impossible speeds. It would appear in one place, fire its terrible weapons, then vanish and appear somewhere else. "How are they moving like that?" demanded Vex. "I don't know," Corvash snarled. "All ships, concentrate fire on that target." Hundreds of energy beams and missiles flew toward the Defiance. But the human ship seemed to know where every shot would go. It moved between the attacks like it was dancing dot in the Defiance's laboratory. Dr. Helen Walsh watched her adaptive shield system work. Every time an enemy weapon hit their shields, the system learned. The shields changed to better resist that type of attack. "Incredible," she whispered to her assistant Tom. "The shields are actually getting stronger with each hit. How is that possible?" Tom asked as the ship shook from another impact. "The quantum field adjusts itself," Helen explained while checking her readings. "Each attack teaches the system how to defend better. We're becoming immune to their weapons." On the bridge, Morrison watched his ship tear through the enemy formation. The Defiance moved like a living thing, striking and moving before the enemy could respond. "Sir," reported Amy Barnes, "I'm picking up Federation ships on long-range sensors." "Admiral Vises is bringing her fleet to help us." Morrison smiled grimly. "Tell her to stay back. We can handle this." But even as he spoke, Morrison knew this was the hardest fight of his life. The hegemony ships were starting to learn. They were firing in patterns, trying to trap the Defiance. Lieutenant Commander Steve Murphy led a team of Marines through the ship's corridors. Steve was a big man with scars on his face and hands that knew how to fight. His team carried weapons that most aliens had never seen. "Sir," said one of his Marines, a woman named Kate, "are we really going to board enemy ships?" Steve checked. His weapon. "If we get the chance." These bugs need to learn what happens when you mess with humans. The Defiance's weapons fired again. Another hegemony ship exploded. Then another. Tony Rivera worked his controls like a master musician. Each shot found its target. Each target died. But there were so many enemies. For every ship they destroyed, 10 more took its place. The hegemony fleet surrounded them like a metal storm. "Shields at 60%, Lisa reported. "We're taking heavy damage." Morrison gritted his teeth. "Ryan, I need more power." In the engine room, Chief Engineer Ryan Clark pushed the quantum cores to their limits. The engines screamed with power beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Pete," Ryan shouted to his assistant, "reroute power from life support to shields." "Sir." "That's dangerous," Pete replied. "Everything we're doing is dangerous," Ryan said. "Do it." The Defiance's shields flared brighter. The ship's weapons fired faster. And still the enemy came. Corvash watched another of his ships die. The humans were killing his fleet, but slowly. His numbers would win in the end. "Sir," reported a bridge officer, "the Federation fleet is approaching." Corvash's eyes blazed with anger. "Fire on them too. Anyone who helps humans is our enemy." The battle grew larger. Federation ships joined the fight, their weapons adding to the storm of energy. But they used old technology. Their weapons barely scratched hegemony armor. On the Defiance, Morrison realized they were running out of time. His ship was strong, but not strong enough to fight the entire hegemony fleet. "Sir," Amy said urgently, "I'm picking up a massive energy signature. Something big is coming." Morrison's blood ran cold. On his tactical display, a new contact appeared. It was huge, bigger than anything else in the battle. A hegemony super dreadnought. A ship designed to destroy entire planets. "Captain," Lisa said quietly, That's the World Breaker. It has enough firepower to crack a moon. Morrison stared at the massive enemy ship. It bristled with weapons and carried enough missiles to destroy a solar system. This was what the hegemony used when they wanted to make sure nothing survived. All ships, Corvash broadcast on all frequencies, witnessed the end of humanity. Again, the World Breaker's main gun began to charge. Energy gathered at its bow like a tiny star. When it fired, nothing would survive. Morrison looked around his bridge. His crew was spared but determined. They had come so far. They had shown the galaxy that humans could not be destroyed, but this might be the end. "Sir," Tony Rivera said quietly. "Orders?" Morrison thought of Earth. He thought of all the humans who had died. He thought of the children on the generation ships who would never see their homeworld again. "We came here to send a message," Morrison said. "Let's make sure they hear it loud and clear." The Defiance turned toward the World Breaker. One small ship against a weapon that could destroy worlds. The last free humans in the galaxy refusing to surrender even when death was certain. Behind them, a Federation fleet watched in amazement. These humans were either the bravest creatures in the galaxy or the craziest. Maybe both. The World Breaker's main gun glowed like a small sun. Energy gathered at the massive weapon's tip, enough power to crack a planet in half. Admiral Corvash watched from his flagship, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction. This time, the humans would truly be extinct, but Captain Morrison had other plans. "Ryan," Morrison spoke into his communication device, "I need everything the engines can give us. Everything." In the engine room, Chief Engineer Ryan Clark's hands flew over his controls. "You got it, Captain." "Pete, disconnect all safety systems. We're going full power." "Sir, that could cause a quantum cascade," Pete warned. "Then we better make this count," Ryan replied. The Defiance's engines roared to life with power beyond their design limits. The ship shot forward like a bullet, moving faster than any vessel in the galaxy. It aimed straight at the World Breaker's charging weapon. On the Hegemony Super Dreadnought, alarm screamed. "Sir," an officer reported to the ship's captain, "the human vessel is on a collision course." "Impossible," the captain replied. "They would have to be insane." The captain did not understand humans very well. Morrison gripped his chair as the Defiance accelerated. "Tony, target their main gun. Hit it with everything we have." Major Tony Rivera smiled grimly. "With pleasure, sir." The Defiance's antimatter. Lances fired at point-blank range. The beams struck the World Breaker's charging weapon just as it prepared to fire. The result was spectacular. The Super Dreadnought's main gun exploded in a chain reaction. Energy meant to destroy planets turned inward. The massive ship tore itself apart from the inside. In seconds, the Hegemony's most powerful weapon became a cloud of expanding debris dot the shockwave threw the Defiance backward like a toy. Sparks flew across the bridge as systems overloaded. "Damage report," Morrison shouted over the noise. "Shields at 20%, Lisa Grant reported. "We lost 2 weapon systems and the main sensor array, but they were alive." And the World Breaker was gone. Across the Hegemony fleet, panic spread. Their most powerful ship had been destroyed by a single human vessel. Officers who had been confident minutes before now stared at their screens in fear. "Impossible," Admiral Corvash whispered. "That ship was unsinkable." "Sir," Vex reported, his voice shaking, "we've lost 37 ships. The humans have only lost shield power." Corvash's compound eyes burned with rage. "All ships ramming speed. Destroy that vessel at any cost." But the Hegemony fleet was no longer fighting as one. Ship captains began to hesitate. Some started to retreat without orders. The human ship seemed unstoppable dot on the Federation command vessel. Admiral Vises watched the battle with amazement. Her pale blue skin glowed brighter with excitement. "How are they doing this?" asked her tactical officer, Captain Norg. "I don't." "No," Admiral Vises replied, "but we should help them. All ships, attack the hegemony fleet." The Federation vessels charged forward. Their weapons were older and weaker than human technology, but they had numbers. Energy beams and missiles added to the chaos of battle. On the Defiance, Lieutenant Commander Steve Murphy got his chance for action. A damaged hegemony cruiser drifted close to their ship, its hull cracked open. "Captain," Steve reported over. "Communications, requesting permission to board that cruiser." Morrison looked at the enemy ship. It was still dangerous, but barely alive. "Permission granted. Show them what human Marines can do." Steve led 20 Marines through the airlocks onto the enemy vessel. The aliens inside were not prepared for what they faced. Humans had spent 300 years preparing for war. Their weapons were advanced, their armor was strong, and their fighting spirit was unbreakable. The Marines moved through the alien ship like a force of nature. "Contact front," shouted Marine Kate Wilson as insect-like hegemony soldiers appeared in the corridor. The aliens fired their weapons, but human shields absorbed the energy. Human weapons fired back, and the aliens fell. Steve's team advanced room by room, deck by deck. The hegemony soldiers had never faced humans in close combat. These creatures fought with a fury they had never seen. Every human seemed worth 10 alien soldiers. "Sir," one of Steve's Marines reported, "we've reached their bridge." Steve looked through the doorway at the enemy command center. Alien officers cowered behind their consoles, their weapons forgotten. "Surrender," Steve ordered in the hegemony language. The aliens looked at the armored humans with terror. These were not the same humans they had fought centuries ago. These humans were harder, stronger, and absolutely fearless. The alien captain dropped his weapon. "We surrender." Meanwhile, communications specialist Kelly Jordan worked frantically at her station on the Defiance. Kelly was a smart young woman, with quick fingers and a keen ear for signals. "Captain," she reported, "I'm intercepting hegemony communications. They're talking about something called Final Protocol." Morrison's blood turned cold. "What kind of protocol?" Kelly listened too. More transmissions, her face growing pale. "Sir, Admiral Korvash is ordering his fleet to retreat, but he's preparing some kind of weapon. Something aimed at the Federation capital world." Morrison realized what was happening. Korvash was planning to destroy billions of innocent people. Rather than admit defeat, the Federation capital held 50 billion citizens from dozens of different species. "How long until the weapon fires?" Morrison asked. Kelly's fingers flew over her controls. "I'm tracking the energy signature." 12 minutes, sir." Morrison looked at his tactical display. The Federation capital was too far away. Even with their quantum engines, the Defiance could not reach it in time to stop the weapon. Unless ... "Ryan," Morrison called to engineering, "can we create a controlled quantum explosion?" Ryan's voice came back immediately. "Yes, sir." "But it would destroy the ship." Morrison nodded slowly. He had known this moment might come. "Prepare the quantum cores for overload." "Sir?" Lisa Grant turned to look at her captain. "What are you planning?" Morrison stood up from his command chair. "The only thing we can do. If we overload our quantum cores next to Korvash's weapon, the explosion will destroy it before it can fire." The bridge went quiet. Everyone understood what Morrison was saying. They would have to sacrifice themselves to save the Federation capital. "Sir," Tony Rivera said quietly, "there has to be another way." "There isn't," Morrison replied, "but that's okay. We came here to send a message. This will be the loudest message of all." Morrison activated the ship's communication system. All hands, this is the captain. In a few minutes, we will save 50 billion innocent lives. Our families would be proud. Around the galaxy, beings watched the battle. Some were enemies, some were allies, and some were neutral. But all of them saw the same thing. One small human ship, surrounded by enemies, choosing to sacrifice itself. For others. Set course for Admiral Corvash's flagship, Morrison ordered. Maximum speed. The Defiance turned toward the enemy fleet. Its quantum engines blazed brighter than ever before. The ship raced toward its destiny, carrying the hopes and dreams of a species that refused to surrender. Behind them, the Federation fleet followed. They could not save the human ship, but they could honor its sacrifice by fighting on. Ahead waited Admiral Corvash and his terrible weapon. In minutes, one of them would be gone forever. Morrison looked around his bridge one last time. These people had given their lives to make this moment possible. They were the best humanity had to offer. For Earth, Morrison said quietly. For Earth, his crew replied. Admiral Corvash watched his weapon charge with grim satisfaction. The planet killer was his final card, a weapon of pure destruction hidden in his flagship's belly. If he could not defeat the humans in battle, he would make sure the galaxy remembered why the hegemony was feared. Sir, reported Vex, the weapon will be ready to fire in 8 minutes. Good, Corvash said. Target the Federation capital. 50 billion deaths will teach the galaxy not to side with humans. But on his tactical display, a single contact raced toward his ship. The human vessel moved faster than anything should be able to move. Its quantum engines burned like blue stars. Sir, an officer called out, the human ship is approaching at impossible speed. Kovash's compound eyes focused on the display. All weapons, fire on that ship. Destroy it now. Energy beams filled space around the Defiance, but Captain Morrison's ship moved like a living thing. It twisted between the attacks, racing toward Corvash's flagship. On the Defiance bridge, alarms screamed as systems overloaded. Chief Navigator Paul Anderson worked frantically at his controls. Paul was a quiet man with steady hands and perfect aim. Captain, Paul reported, I have a firing solution. We can hit their weapon directly. Morrison nodded. How long until we reach the target? 3 minutes, sir. Morrison looked around his bridge one last time. His crew worked with calm determination. They knew they were about to die, but their faces showed no fear, only pride. Ryan, Morrison called to engineering. Status on the quantum overload? Chief Engineer Ryan Clark's voice came back over the communication system. Cores are ready. Captain, when you give the word, we'll create the biggest explosion this galaxy has ever seen. In the engine room, Ryan and his assistant Pete made final preparations. The quantum cores hummed with deadly power. One command would turn them into a miniature star. Ryan, Pete said quietly, my family is on Earth Station 7. Do you think they'll ever know what we did here? Ryan smiled sadly. Pete, the whole galaxy will know. We're making sure of that. Meanwhile, Dr. Helen Walsh worked in her laboratory, recording everything. Her scientific instruments captured data about their weapons, their shields, and their quantum technology. Tom, she said to her assistant, upload all our research to the Federation databanks. Make sure they get our shield technology. Tom's fingers flew over the controls. Why, Doctor? Because somebody needs to carry on our work, Helen replied. Humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy shouldn't die with us. On the bridge, communications specialist Kelly Jordan sent a final message to the Federation fleet. Her hands shook slightly as she typed. Message sent, Captain, Kelly reported. I told them everything we learned about hegemony weaknesses. Morrison smiled. Good work, Kelly. You might have just saved the galaxy. The Defiance raced closer to Corvash's flagship. Enemy weapons filled space with deadly energy, but the human ship seemed blessed by fate. Every shot missed by inches. "Sir," Lisa Grant reported, "we're almost in range." Morrison stood up from his command chair. "All hands, prepare for impact. It has been an honor serving with you." Around the ship, 800 crew members stood at their posts. They were engineers, scientists, soldiers, and explorers. They were the children and grandchildren of Earth's survivors. And they were about to make the ultimate sacrifice. Lieutenant Commander Steve Murphy and his Marines had returned from their boarding mission. They stood ready for whatever came next. "Sir," Steve reported, "the enemy cruiser is destroyed. Marines ready for final orders." "Stand by, Steve," Morrison replied. "This is going to be a rough ride." Admiral Corvash finally understood what the humans planned. His mandibles clicked with fear as he realized the truth. "They're going to ram." "U.S.," he whispered. "Stop them. All ships. Protect the flagship." But it was too late. The Defiance burst through the enemy formation like a comet. Its antimatter lances fired one last time, cutting deep into Corvash's ship. "Now, Ryan!" Morrison shouted in the engine room. Ryan Clark pressed the final control. "For humanity." The quantum cores overloaded in a cascade of pure energy. The explosion was brighter than a star and more powerful than a supernova. It consumed the Defiance instantly, then reached out to grab Corvash's flagship. The Hegemony Admiral had one last moment to realize his mistake. He had thought humans were weak because they cared about others. Now he understood that caring made them stronger, not weaker. The explosion vaporized both ships. A planet-killer weapon died before it could fire. 50 billion innocent lives were saved by the sacrifice of 800 humans. The shockwave raced outward, destroying dozens of hegemony ships. The surviving aliens fled in terror, their fleet broken and their admiral dead. In the silence that followed, Admiral Vises looked at the expanding cloud of energy where the human ship had been. Her silver eyes filled with tears. "Record everything," she ordered her crew. "The galaxy must know what happened here." 6 months later, Ambassador Lirel stood before the rebuilt Federation Council. Representatives from hundreds of species listened as she read from a message found in the Defiances. Final transmission. "We didn't return for revenge," Morrison's words echoed through the Great Hall. "We returned to prove that some things are worth dying for. The galaxy is worth saving, even if we're not here to see it." The Council voted unanimously to establish the Morrison Accords, a new charter guaranteeing the rights of all species. Never again would the galaxy stand by while one race tried to destroy another. But Lirel knew something the Council did not. Deep in the archives of the Defiance's transmitted data, she had found construction plans, blueprints for new ships, new weapons, and new hope far beyond the edge of known space. In the dark between the stars, construction lights began to shine. Generation ships that had hidden for centuries started to build. The Defiance had carried more than weapons and shields. It had carried the future. Children who had never seen a planet worked alongside their parents and grandparents. They built new ships based on the Defiance's design. They trained for the day they would return to reclaim their place among the stars, humanity's. Exile was not over, but neither was their story. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. You can destroy a world, burn a civilization, and scatter a people across the void. But you cannot kill an idea. And the idea of human freedom would never die. In the wreckage of the Great Battle, Federation salvage teams found something remarkable. A piece of hull plating from the Defiance somehow survived the quantum explosion. On it were carved 3 simple words: "Earth remembers everything." The plate was placed in a museum on the Federation capital world. Beings from across the galaxy came to see it. They read the words and remembered the ship that had saved them all. Some visitors were former enemies who had learned to respect human courage. Others were allies who had gained new strength from human sacrifice. All of them understood the same truth. Humanity had returned to the galaxy not as conquerors, but as guardians. They had shown that the strongest weapon in the universe was not antimatter or quantum energy. It was the willingness to die for others. And somewhere in the dark between the stars, that lesson was being taught to a new generation. Children learned to build ships and fight battles and explore the unknown. They learned the history of Earth and the meaning of sacrifice. Most importantly, they learned that being human meant never giving up hope. The hegemony was broken. The Federation was reformed. And humanity was coming home. The defiance was gone. But its message would echo through the ages. In a galaxy full of wonders and terrors, one truth remained constant. When evil threatened the innocent, when darkness covered the stars, when hope seemed lost forever, humanity would be there, because that's what humans do. They protect those who cannot protect themselves. They stand guard against the night. They light candles in the darkness and refuse to let them go out. The galaxy was a better place because 800 humans chose to make it so. And in the end, that was the greatest victory of all.